This is the plaintiff, Rosemary. She says she was relocating her skincare business from Chicago to Danbury, Connecticut, and she rented a space from the defendant, but found out the woman had no right subletting the space to her. The phony defendant refuses to return her rent money and security. The lease she signed is not valid, and she's here seeking the $600 she's owed back. This is the defendant, Alicia. She says she has a makeup and eyelash extension business, and she looked at some space she was renting online because she was from out of state. When the plaintiff arrived, she said the space was too small for her, but she had the room painted and renovated for the plaintiff and isn't returning a penny because the wishy-washy woman changed her mind. She's accused of not making things right.
All parties, please raise your right hands. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Williams now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay. Ms. Rosemary, you are suing Ms. Alicia for $600 that you want returned to you because, according to you, she entered into a fraudulent lease with you. Tell me what happened.
In March, I was relocating my business from Chicago to Connecticut. I found a location.
What kind of business do you have?
Skincare.
All right, so what do you do?
Facials and yes.
Okay, and you found her place how?
I'm familiar with the area because I'm originally from the area, so there are suites in this location, so I was interested in that location. And Annalisa had a business there, and I was looking for the broker information so that I can lease a space there.
Okay.
And when I contacted her, she offered to lease a space that she
But
leases.
how did you contact her? Because she's not the broker for the place.
No, I contacted just business.
Had she listed it or something?
No, she just.
Oh,
her
so you were
business.
just calling businesses
Right,
who were
randomly just calling
so you
business
just,
owners
is she the
to
first
get
one you
information.
called or the first one that answered?
Right. Well, yeah, she was. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then she says, "Well, what a coincidence! I have a space that I'm." So you didn't even ask. You didn't even get the broker's name.
No.
And then she sends you pictures of the place,
Yes.
and she tells you how big it is,
Yes.
and it sounds big.
Yes. And it looked big in the picture, but
Right.
it was not.
Okay. Well, how big did she say it was? Because that's how big it is, right?
Right. Exactly.
And how big did she say it was?
About 150
156 square feet.
square feet. Yes.
Okay. And then when you get into Connecticut and you look at the space, you decide that's not big enough for you.
Right.
Before you get to Connecticut, though, you have asked her to paint it for you.
Yes. Yes.
Before you change your mind that it's too small, you've asked her to paint it for
Right, because I'm thinking, visualizing this place, it looked big, so I asked her if she would paint.
you. Okay, but why wasn't it big enough? If you know exactly how big it is, because she told you 156 square feet.
But I was going.
You didn't know what 156 square feet looked like.
Off the top of my head, I did not know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then she tells you, well, I have another room that you could rent from me. All this is in the same
It's in the same, in her business.
suite or whatever
Yes.
that she's at. Okay.
Okay, so when I arrived in June, I saw the space and I told her it was too small.
By that point, you had paid her how much?
$200.
Okay.
For security. I told her it was too small. I would not be able to function in that small space. So she offered another space that she was leasing to someone else that was leaving, and she said would be available in July. So I said, okay. So she showed it to me, and I was like, okay. So I tried to move my stuff in. It was too small.
Don't you know how much stuff you have? And
Right.
didn't you look at your office in Chicago and say, well, this office is X, so the least I need is Y? Like, why didn't you do that? And then you wouldn't have all these problems.
Well, I just figured it would work out. I was trying to work. I figured.
Why
it was
would you?
good.
My entire question is why. It's why would you figure
was
it would
a
work
little
if you
figure-
didn't measure your office in Chicago and figure out how big
It
it
was nothing compared to what I had in Chicago. But I figured, I said, all right, I saw the room and I said to her, okay.
So now this one you're seeing with your eyeballs.
Yeah, this one I walked in.
And you say, this is going to be fine. And she paints it. And what did it turn out?
happened?
You start bringing stuff in and it's just crowded?
I bought a new table and it was just the angle of the room was off, so a table, I couldn't fit my table.
And by this point, you've paid her how much?
This point, I paid her 200. Yeah, it was the 200, and then
You're suing for 600. When did you pay the other 400?
she pressured me to pay the rent because I was supposed to have.
When did you pay the 400?
I paid her in July.
Is it before you moved into the second place?
Yes.
So then at this point, when you decide that the second place is also, that you've seen with your eyeballs, well, this won't do, you are now into it for 600 and she has painted 2 rooms for you.
Okay.
Is that true or not true? Did she paint the second one?
She painted the second room, yes.
And had she painted the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
But
All
she
right.
offered to paint it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. She offered. Normally, when you rent a space, landlords will paint it for you.
Well, maybe
as a
not.
courtesy.
It depends on when it was
Okay.
painted.
Okay,
You
but
also
there was-
asked for
it did not
specific
mention
color
that
and stuff.
It was not in the lease anyway, so it
The
was something
painting.
we spoke
Okay.
about
All
verbally.
right, so now when you decide that this isn't big enough, you're in the midst of the move-in? Is it the first day or is it after
Well,
you've been there?
I've been trying to move my stuff in. The table that I bought.
Did you
was
do any
totally-
business there?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
So
I
how
couldn't-
long did it take you to figure out that this is not the right place for you?
In the beginning of July, when she contacted.
How many days did it take you?
I was supposed to, well, she said that room would be available in July, so it was the beginning of July.
I'm asking you how many days it took you. Did you immediately say this won't work? Did you take 2 days to move in and realize it wouldn't work? Did you take 2 weeks to move in and realize it wouldn't work? That's what I'm
It
at.
took me a week because I had a bed ordered, sent there, okay? And it was an electric
Right.
bed. It was a big bed, and it didn't fit properly because of the angle of the room. So I told her, I says, this isn't going to work.
Do you think maybe you're not that good a planner, though? You know,
No.
because you're not a good planner.
No, I am a good planner.
You sound like an
because-
awful planner. So you tell her, this isn't going to work, I want my money back. What does she say?
Well, first of all, she was pressuring me to move in because she was going on maternity leave. She was pressuring me to move in.
I thought you were renting the place in June, but it was so small that you were going to wait until July.
Because that room was out of the picture. So
Yeah,
now we're
because
talking
you
about
said
the
so,
other room.
not because she wouldn't rent it to you. All right, so but what happens? When you realize this isn't going to work for me, how does it go down between you two? Tell me about that.
Okay, so I said to her, no, she offered, she was the one that said, this is not going to work. So I felt threatened, okay, and I felt like,
Why
I gotta hurry
threatened?
up and get in there because of the lease, okay?
Wait, I'm sorry, hold on. She said this is not going to work. Why?
She just said it's not going to work because of the time it took for me to move in. So as I told her, when my bed
But
arrived,
I thought you'd already paid the rent.
I paid her,
For June?
in July, I paid her.
For July?
Yes.
So then-
400.
Right. So what does she care how long it takes you to move in?
Thank you. So she was pressuring me to hurry up and pay to get in there because she was going on maternity leave.
Okay, wait, I'm confused. In my mind, you've already paid $400.
No, ma'am.
So you didn't pay the $400 till after you moved in July? I know you paid $200 first and $400 later. When did you pay the $400?
In
Is it
July,
before you moved in or
before
after
I
you
moved in, ma'am.
Right. Okay.
Before.
Nobody's pressuring you. You want that place. You pick that place, and then you pay. She says, you got to pay rent. And then you pay the rent, and then what? You're
Right,
not
but
a pressurable person. You're a person who doesn't measure. That's who you are. But in any event, you then say to her, who says to who, this isn't going to work at that point?
She first said to me, she sent me a text and said she doesn't think it's going to work because I haven't moved in yet.
When does she send that to you? In
She sent
June?
that yeah, she sent it at the end of June. And
Okay.
then when I found out,
So you pay $400. We're past that.
Okay.
You pay $400. You try to move in. You go, this is too small too. And then what? What happened after that?
I told her, I said, this isn't going to work, okay? I can't get my stuff. It just isn't going to work. The angle of the room isn't going to work. So I said to her, to be all fair, I said, listen, for all your troubles, okay, you could keep the $200 for the for the paint, okay? But I would like the refund let's void this
$400.
contract.
Right, and the refund of the
refund me my
$400.
$400.
And that didn't seem fair to you because you had a signed lease.
Correct.
Except, is there a problem with your signed lease?
Based off of the digging that she did, the contract was unenforceable
Why?
because I had to get permission from my landlord.
Did you get permission from your landlord?
I did not, but I was under the impression, just based off how everything was working in my business already. I had someone there previously, and that tenant was on a first-name basis with the property manager, so I had never asked for permission with that
But
tenant.
your lease says you have to get permission?
Technically, yes.
But did not technically, it says it. It says it in black and white. But then did you ever speak to the landlord and then the landlord say that they had a problem with it or didn't have a problem with it or what?
Welcome back to the People's Court. I'm Harvey Levin. The plaintiff says the defendant turned out to be a real phony by renting her a space. Ended up, she had no right to rent out. But the defendant says she renovated the space for the plaintiff and painted the walls, and she owes her nothing. Let's see what the judge thinks.
Had you sought permission with the previous tenant?
No.
Okay. When this hits the fan, did you speak to your landlord?
I wasn't aware of the fact that I wasn't allowed to sublet without permission.
Okay.
They came to me after the fact.
Who's they? Who's they?
The property manager. He had reached out to me and said that she had some questions about my lease.
Okay. And then the property manager is the one who breaks it to you that you're supposed to get written permission?
Correct.
All right. So here is my question to you, though. Did you ever say, okay, I'll get the written permission now, or no?
This was after the fact, after she had decided I don't want the space anymore, after literally everything.
Okay. All right. So she has you painting, but she doesn't want to stay there. You think the lease is valid, so you won't return her $400. She can't fit in there. It's obvious she can't fit in there. But you won't return her $400, which sounds like a really good idea to you at the time. But in retrospect now, you kind of wish you'd given her $400 and kept the $200 for your trouble, right?
Honestly, no.
No.
The reason, it's not even because of the contract, it's the simple fact that that's how much I paid to do the renovations for your room.
What renovations? You painted?
The painting.
You paid $600 to paint?
$400 plus the paint itself. And I have the
Why
receipts
didn't
from the
you?
painting.
Why didn't you just tell her paint yourself when you get here?
That's a
The
good
room
question.
need painting?
Actually,
What's the deal? Like you rent the suite and then you've been subletting the rooms in it, or what's the layout? Yeah.
So the reason why I did the painting was because I was having painting done before she was coming in. I had just finished installing hardwood floors. We were painting the entire
So you were going to paint
shop.
anyway. So
Exactly.
why are you saying that you needed to keep her $600 then? See, here's the thing. You have a lease, and the lease you are arguing. Go ahead. Let me let you argue it.
The lease is not valid
Because?
because it states it here in the lease that now I'm leasing from the company. It states it here. There's no subletting in their.
So how is it you found that out? You finally did find the broker.
I finally found the broker and I found the place in the facility.
And you have you're renting a place for $300 a month. That's what size?
It's 360 square feet. That's what I'm paying, $360.
Oh, the
It's
same.
$1
Okay.
square foot.
Okay, $1 square foot. And you were paying $400 for 156 square feet. All right. So maybe you should have found the broker from the beginning and shopped around a little, huh? Right. So when you get your new lease in the new place, that's when you read it and realize that, and then you ask about her lease, and they tell you, yeah, that's in everybody's lease. There's no subletting without our permission.
Right.
Right. You got to give her back her money. Now you got to give her back all of her money. Whereas you would have only had to give back $400. So that's why I was asking you, don't you wish that you had just given back the $400? Because $400 is less than $600. And now you're going to have to pay her back the entire $600 because here's the thing. When you don't have a right to sublet, then that means that your contract with her is void because the landlord can just say, get out to her. You know, she's a third-party beneficiary of the permission that you're supposed to have gotten and didn't. Verdict for the plaintiff in the amount of the $600.
So it turns out to be a tough lesson for the defendant. She has to give the money back, the whole amount, $600 to the plaintiff. Let's see what she has to say. And Alicia, what's your response to the judge's verdict? How do you feel?
I'm a little frustrated, but it is what it is.
Well, it's a hard way to learn a lesson, but at least you've done it now, okay? You've got to give her back the money, the $600. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what Rosemary has to say. She's the one who brought the case to court, and it was a good thing she did because she won, and she's getting her money back. Rosemary, what's your reaction to the judge's decision?
I think it was fair. You know, she needed to be honest with me, and I tried to be fair with her, and she didn't want to be fair, so that's why we're here.
All right, well, congratulations. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Doug, I got to tell you, sublets are really tricky. When you rent a place, you should read at least portions of the lease, and you should read all of it, but you should read portions at least. And one of those portions is your right to sublet. Does it say you can or cannot? That is critical down the line.
I moved into my apartment 5 weeks ago, and I want to break the lease because there are broken locks on windows, a broken stove, a leaky faucet, and now black mold. Wow. I want to get back a month's rent, move-in fee, and pet deposit. Am I entitled to anything? I live in Chicago.
Well, some of this is serious stuff, like broken window locks, because it's a security issue.
Right, and black mold, depending on the extent of it, could be very serious.
Health issue.
I don't know how extensive it is and whether, you know, so the first thing that I would do is make sure that I can get out of living there. You know, if you feel that there's black mold in big cities, especially like Chicago and in a lot of cities, there are government agencies which will go in and inspect it, and it's a violation of the building code to not repair it.
Right.
So if you don't have a good relationship with your landlord and you can't just solve it, then have it inspected by the city so that you have something in writing, or pay a private industry to come in and say this is unhealthy or whatever it is, so you have evidence that you can break your lease.
Right.
But if you just moved in and the landlord is taking care of all, first of all, were all those things broken when you moved in? Because you can lift the window and test it and see everything.
Maybe
and
take a look around next time.
Right, and maybe take a look around. But in any event, if they're broken, they need to be fixed.
Right.
And you only need to give your landlord a reasonable time to fix them.
Right.
You don't need to live in a house where the windows don't lock.
Right.
So you want to have a record that you complained, a record that you complained again, like make sure you're sending texts or emails and that you keep a record of them, and a record of what your landlord is responding.
Right. Don't just yell over the fence about it.
No.
I complained 4 times.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
sure
you always
have
want to have a record of complaints with a landlord.
Right.
Always.
Absolutely. But in this situation, I mean, the person obviously wants the money back, wants to move out, and wants, you know, whatever
Moving
they can
fees
get.
and everything else.
But first you got to give them a chance to try to fix it, right?
Correct.